everyone, welcome to Art and Talk. Art and Talk is an online interviewing platform for artists to share their art, creativity, and passion. We embrace all the arts, the traditional arts and the spiritual arts, to bring you diverse and quality interviews to watch and be inspired by. We're so grateful that you're tuning in with us today. And today we're going to be bringing you a third artist from the Biennial exhibit. The Biennial exhibit is at the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County, and it runs through April 28th. So if you're local, you definitely want to check out the Biennial exhibit. It's a group of fascinating artists, all from the Palm Beach County area. So do have a visit over there before the exhibit is over. If you're not local and you'd like to find out a little bit more about what the Biennial is, you can go onto our Facebook page, and we have a pinned post that tells you all the artists that we're going to be interviewing. And also there's a link to the Cultural Council website, so you can read a little bit more about what the Biennial is about. And if you haven't seen the videos from the other artists, you can go onto our YouTube channel that houses our entire video library. I'm Leslie Sue, the host for Art and Talk. And again, thank you so much for watching. Our third artist is a painter, and we're going to dive into his art and take a look at a selection of his artwork and find out what his art is all about. So again, thank you so much for watching. And I'd like to welcome our third artist from the Biennial exhibit, Jerry Schwimmer. Hi, Jerry, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun being here. This is a lot of fun, and I love having fun. It's just it's being sober and having fun are wonderful things.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun is definitely great. And I can see fun in your art as well. You definitely have kind of like I feel a little bit of a whimsical feel to your artwork, because I had a nice sneak peek into some of your paintings. But Jerry, before we get into your artwork and find out a little more about you, tell us a little bit about your artistic journey. How did you get started? Tell us a little bit more about, what attracted you to painting, drawing, kind of like give us a little feel.
Well, I think it all relates to my childhood. My folks were very supportive of everything I've ever done, and they noticed a quality in me, or a talent. I don't know if you call it talent anymore. Probably more like a skill. But they noticed that I could draw, and I was given the opportunity to go to the Art Institute of Chicago as a child student in grade school for Saturday morning classes, and was around. I was in a big auditorium with a whole lot of other kids from all the schools in the Chicago area, and I just did drawings, on that cheap paper that they give you with all the wood chips in it, and I loved pastels. So, I did whatever they asked me to do, and it was displayed. And then, as time went on, I realized that artists don't go very far economically. And I thought I was just average. So I got into the restaurant business and did very well in the restaurant business, and had a little side hustle of design where I designed wallpaper with a photographer friend of mine, and did a little work for Florsheim Shoes as a commercial artist. And then I worked for Standard Oil and did some murals for their offices in Chicago. I grew up right downtown in Chicago. So, I could take a bus anywhere or walk anywhere. And then a friend of mine, and I guess I was about 16. I'm giving you the whole story here. Took me sailing, and it totally changed my life. As soon as I had the money, I bought a sailboat and I just left. I sailed down the Mississippi River, ended up in Lake Pontchartrain, Louisiana, Tampa, Florida, eventually down in Venezuela somewhere. And my children were born in the Virgin Islands. And I just love the Caribbean. And then moved to Charleston, another beautiful city, and lived in Charleston, had a few restaurants in Charleston, and dabbled a little bit with the Gibbs. The Gibbs was an art studio, and I was doing watercolors on the side, and sold a few watercolors, entered a few competitions, and then life again got in the way, and had to go make a living, and got into the marble and granite business with a friend of mine. We were building spec houses, and we decided to open up a big warehouse and do marble and granite countertops and fireplace surrounds and all kinds of weird stuff with stone. So and my artistic and creative side really loved the stone and the stone work. So I was designing stone, for installations in high-end homes in Kiowa, Seabrook, Charleston, that whole south coast of South Carolina, all the way down to Savannah. And then the travel bug hit me again, and I got bitten real hard with the wanderlust, so I went off and bought another sailboat. And my wife stayed in the house, and my kids were off in college, and I just sailed away. And had a wonderful time sailing around the islands and all over the Caribbean and Central and South America, and ended up here in Florida. And now I'm aging, and I'm back to my first passion, which is drawing and painting. It's just that simple. No more boats. A boat is a hole in the water into which you throw money. And that's it. I mean, as far as what my subject matter is now, I love bartenders. I think bartenders are the most amazing people. They always seem to be receptive and jovial and social, and like me. So I think the last time I refused a drink, I misunderstood the question. But right now I'm on the wagon. So I'm trying to lose a little weight and decide that I want to feel better. But I still love bartenders. And when I walk into a bar that I like, especially a bar that has the beautiful shelves with all the bottles and the lights shining so you can see the selection. And then there's always a friendly face there, always a friendly face. And I ask them if I can take their picture. And there was one fellow, when I was living on my boat in South Beach down in Miami, big Irishman. His name was Joe, and he worked at Smith and Walensky, which is right on Government Cut as you sail in and out of Miami. That's where all the cruise ships come in and out. And he was the best bartender. I mean, it wasn't that he could pour a drink, but he could. But he had the best personality. And I asked him if I could take a picture of him, and he says, of course. I took a picture of him, and that's Irish Joe down there. I don't know if you can see him. He's wearing a green vest.
Yes.
And he's pouring a beer. And then from then on, it just led to, I traveled to Cuba, and I have a whole Cuban Caribbean series that I did. And then traveling around South Florida, I'm always looking for a great bar with a bartender. And right now, I'm working on Mr. O'Malley. Mr. O'Malley is just poured a Manhattan, if you can see the cherry in it. Now this is still in the works. I've just blocked it in, and I'm starting to model it and slowly getting into certain details. But this is a good beginning. I'm very happy about this one. And It's 24 by 30 oil on canvas. I prepped the canvas really good with several coats of gesso. And, you know, I'm running out of things to talk about here.
Well, wow, what an amazing journey that you've had from the Chicago Art Institute, to the, all the different things that you've, been elaborating on, and then like the whole sailing and traveling and the different places and bringing us up to speed with the bartenders. You have a real love of life, and you seem like a real people person, like you're really connected in with people, and then that seems to,
Life is bigger than us. You
yes.
know, you can have a giant ego and you can be as confident as anybody, but still life is bigger than that. And when you can, try and take it all in,
Mhm.
I think it builds character.
Yes, yes. And it seems like, as you were mentioning, Jerry, throughout your artistic journey, that what you were describing, you've always seemed to have art there, whether it was in some design, capacities, that you had mentioned. So even if it was, where, bringing the food on the table wasn't primarily, for a while with art, there was always art in your life. It was always somehow like it was interweaved in.
Yeah, I think it's because of mentors and teachers and people that influenced me over the years. I really enjoy art history. And even till today, I enjoy art history. And I love watching YouTube. There's a Polish fellow with an English accent. I'm going to make a mess of his name. Waldemir Jansusek or something like that. And he's a Polish guy with an English accent, and he travels all over the world. He's got a YouTube show called Perspective, and he talks about art constantly and art through history and basically what is art. You know, the Impressionists, Rococo. He talks about Islamic art, religious art. He talks about the church, and he talks about giant sculptures. So interesting. And I love art history. I love all the artists that have. My favorite artist right now would have to be because my art is so illustrative. I would have to say Winslow Homer or John Singer Sargent. Uh, I think art needs to be allegorical, if you know what I mean. You can look at a picture and you can say, "Oh, that's a nice picture," but if you look a little deeper, it tells a story. It tells a story in the expression on somebody's face or what they're doing in situ. What like the bartenders, they're all at work. They're making drinks. They're in their roles in their job. Um, I love Diego Rivera. I love his murals. I love the whole WPA that happened, in the 30s when when we had the Big Depression and everybody was sponsoring artists all over the world. You look in the old post offices and you see all these giant, beautiful murals that were done in the 30s. Um, and I love to go to all the exhibits here, the Boca, the Norton. These are wonderful places to go. And anytime I'm feeling down, I go there and I get motivated.
Mhm, mhm. So art really brings you this, massive amount of energy and inspiration, as well as learning and that whole knowledge aspect as well.
I have a lot of respect for other people's ideas and talents.
Mhm,
And I'm always open to see what's going on.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I love that openness, Jerry. So it sounds like in your art, particularly, that it's very important for you to be a visual storyteller. You
Yes,
want to tell a story through your painting.
I think there's three types of people. There's a visual person, there's an auditory person, and there's somebody who just likes to talk. You know, there may be another one in there, but I'm very visual, extremely visual. And, like I said to you earlier, you're an artist. We see things. We see things that most people don't see. And when we see things, we feel things. And that's what motivates me. I think that most people just glance at things. They don't really see the depth or the, most people are just stuck on nuances. Whereas somebody who's visual like me looks deeper. And, I see the crags in people's faces, but sometimes I don't put them in because it, it doesn't help the overall portrait.
Mhm.
Um, it's like if I'm painting an apple and there's a brown spot, I'll leave it out.
Right. So you develop your own sense of aesthetics. You see what's there, whether it's the blemish or the line on the eyes, but you give it that creative license, so to speak, to, create it in, and so it's, Jerry's vision.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And I'm just having a great time. I
Mhm.
was seduced by drawing at a young age. I love to draw, and I think if I'm going to get better at what I do, I paint and draw every day. Sometimes I just sketch if I'm busy out running around doing other things, and sometimes I'll spend hours at the easel. But I like to at least start my day after my coffee with drawing, and I filled up a lot of sketchbooks.
Wow. Yeah, that's such a beautiful way to start your day. And so this is really like your passion. This is what brings you happiness, what brings you joy. And that's like, helping you to just, continue on with your interests, and then your drawings, lead also into some of your paintings, and it just brings you into that artist space.
Yeah, I really do enjoy life drawing and having a live model. And since COVID, we haven't had that. I
Right.
love to go to Old School Square and share the model. And they had a model 3, 4 days a week. Sometimes it was just portraits, and sometimes it was, full figure nude. And I would also go to the Boca Art School on Saturdays and share a model with a lot of other artists. But all that's gone by the wayside. So now, if I want to do a drawing or portrait, I look, I watch TV. If I see somebody interesting on TV, I'll take a picture of the TV and then I'll download it to my printer, print it out, and then I'll do a drawing of that.
Hmm.
I would prefer to have a live model,
Hmm.
but that's not accessible now.
Hmm. Do you like having that visual reference, whether it's a live model, if possible,
Well,
or
I
a
think it's
photograph?
the volume. To me, the volume is very important. If you don't have volume, it's hard to create different values.
Hmm. Hmm.
And on the screen where I take my photographs or whatever, we don't get that. Everything is 2D. And I think, for things to be interesting and to create volume and depth and character, you need to have that volume.
Hmm. Yes, yes. Before we take a look at some of your paintings, Jerry, I'd just like to touch upon something that you said, about the visual acuity of an artist and a visual artist. Um, so, and then that's something that is continuously, being developed in how we see the world, or how we see forms or people, or, a still life bottles and fruit, or, whatever it might be. And it sounds like very early on that these skills were very readily easy for you. You seem to take naturally to drawing and to painting. And it seemed like, this was just kind of an innate skill within you. Um, so what is your take on the situation of, you were saying like you felt that others, may not necessarily see these see these nuances. So do you feel that perhaps, like for example, a mathematician is going to be involved with all these numbers, and that's what he or she thinks and he or she feels. That's how they, communicate, and that's how they interact with the world. So like as a visual artist, observing the light and how it's on a face or it's on a tree or an animal, whatever it might be. Do you feel that in part as a visual artist that it's the job of a visual artist to kind of present these things that you see that perhaps others might not, to say, hey, stop and take a look at this? Are you kind of in concert with that, or how do you, what's your take?
No, I agree with you. Yeah. It makes me happy, and it creates great joy in me. And, it's my passion to do this. And I get great joy and satisfaction out of trying to get an eyelash in the right place, or making sure that the nostril isn't too big, or making sure that the stem of the apple is just right with the light shining on it. It's how I see things and how I want other people to see things on my canvas. Um, if I could get go to the armory and chip away at a piece of marble, I would love that. But and I played in clay too. I love all that stuff. I mean, yeah, just being creative is fun, and it keeps me sane
Mhm.
because my mind is always going. I don't sleep very well, or I don't sleep a lot. I sleep in fits because my mind is so active. You
Mhm.
know, like like this painting that I'm working on now of Mr. Maloney. I think about this all the time. I think about the strands of hair. Like what colors are going to be in the strands of hair? Is there going to be reflective light from another source, or is it going to be one source? This morning I was working on the martini shaker, and there's so many colors in that martini shaker, and that martini shaker is round. Some of the bottles are round too. So you have to think of the gradations of color to create that volume. And my mind is just busy doing that. And lots of times that I don't think about anything else. But to answer your question about the mathematician, and in other things that I've read, I think everybody is an artist. I think they're an artist in their own respect, and they all have an appreciation of life. This is the way I appreciate my life. And if other people see it, or if they can appreciate it, well, that's even better for everybody. This is, when you stop and think about it, Leslie Sue, um, other than throwing money around, this is my legacy.
Mhm. Mhm.
So these things will be around long after I'm gone. So if it makes me this much immortal, that makes me happy too.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
giving away art. I love giving it away. I do portraits of people and I give it to them. I never see it again. And they thank me. Sometimes it gets put in a closet, or sometimes they put it on the wall, but that's not the point. The fact of the matter is that I was inspired enough to do that in the first place.
Mhm. Mhm. That's so beautiful, Jerry. I love everything that you're sharing, and I love your your open definition of art, and that everybody is an artist, and it doesn't have to be represented in an artistic way. Like that's not necessarily defining an artist. Like you paint, you draw, you're a ceramicist, you're a photographer. It's like everybody is an artist in their own way. I love that open
Well,
definition.
it's how we interact with each other. The mathematician is an artist. I mean, he probably has spent a lot of years studying that. And as a visual artist, I've spent my whole life studying visual things. A mathematician studies the numbers and how the numbers interact and this and that. So, and scientists have to study a lot. Even a mother or a father just, handling their children, they have to study too. So they're all artists. But, there's different degrees, different levels, and different depths. I mean, look, I remember when photography was not considered an art. And I think I was of that belief too. In the beginning, when I first studied photography, we were given a big old speed graphic with one of those accordion things that sat on a tripod, wooden tripod, and you had to throw the thing over your, and you look at something and you see it totally differently than you would if you were, looking at it normally. But when you put a hood over your head and you look through that little lens, or a big lens, because those were 5x5 glass slides. I don't know if you remember the speed graphic cameras, but that was the artistic quality of photography back when I was in school as a kid. And it really opened my eyes to how you, as a person, can manipulate things. And that's what I try to do in my art. We manipulate people, we manipulate machines, we manipulate computers. I manipulate the paint.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's almost like being an alchemist. It's almost like a magician.
Well, whatever. We're all playing around, and if it's fun, that makes it so much better.
Yes. You know what, Jerry? Let's go ahead and, if it's all right with you, let's look at some of your paintings and have you elaborate.
All right. So what should I do? Get out of the way?
No, I'm going to pull up the images that you.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Let me get this here. There we go. All right. Let's look at this one.
Yeah, this lady is Jules, and she is the daytime bartender at Max's Grill. A very, very nice, personable lady, and I had some good interactions with her. When I asked her to pose, she looked at me and she grabbed that bottle, that green bottle, and she says, "How's this?" And I said, "That's perfect." So I looked, I took the picture with my phone, and all the bottles in the background and the lighting, you can see the reflection of the back of her head in the mirror behind her, and the reflection of some of the bottles in the mirror. Um, I worked on this one for about 6 or 8 months, using all kinds of brushes, and a lot of different layers. Um, so, it was just a matter of getting the smile right. A lot of portrait artists will tell you, never do a portrait with the mouth open and people smiling. You always want to have the lips closed because it's too hard to paint or draw the teeth. But I mean, it was just an important part of her character to, as a bartender and as a nice lady, to smile like that. So, I mean, there was no way I could do the painting without the smile.
Right, right. Yeah, and this is it's so beautiful and it's so evocative of the moment. Like you completely captured the moment and you gave us like the heads up, like you're on this, journey to, to go to these bars and there's always a personable, friendly person there and this is a theme that you like to work with. I just think is absolutely marvelous and you can see all the detail work and you really get the sense of being there, like actually in the moment and, capturing her personality as well in her face and, her gestures and whatnot.
Yeah, I had fun. It was a lot of fun.
All right, Jerry, let's go ahead and go to the next one. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I call this one the Cuban. Okay, and I did a tour of Cuba with my friend Jimmy, my high school buddy, and we hired a driver and a translator, and we spent 2 weeks in Cuba. It was an expensive trip, but well worth it. I love Cuba. This gentleman was sitting out in front of the church. We're in the oldest city uh, in Cuba called Trinidad. And Trinidad was founded by the conquistadors. And there's a church there that's, I don't know, 400 years old, something like that. And this gentleman was just sitting there in front of the church like that. And I asked him if I could take a picture. And he said, of course. And when I saw him sitting there, the first thing that came to mind was the color, because it was such a bright sunny day. and the color was just so intense. And that it's actually a small painting. That's only I think it's 20 by 24, something like that. And I built up a lot of layers. I had a lot of fun with the hands. I love to put hands in the picture. To me, you can't tell a story without the hands. You know, Italian people, they love to talk with their hands. Well, this guy here, when he found out that I was going to take his picture, that was his pose. And he's sitting in front of a church in Trinidad, Cuba, you know, just minding his own business. I couldn't believe he's wearing that heavy suit because it had to be 100 degrees in the shade. But the guy had style, he had class, he had stature, you know, and I said, what a great picture.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at these two paintings, Jules, and then this Cuban one of this gentleman, you really capture the personality visually of the person. Like we feel like, you know, we actually kind of know who this person is, you know, maybe some of their tendencies, you know, their personality. We get kind of a really good feel about them. I'm also wondering, Jerry, so when you asked him to take this picture, or like with Jules and the other paintings that you do, how many photographs do you take, and then you go back in your studio and you just take one photograph and then that's it, and then you come back in your studio and then
If I take too many photographs, then I've overthought it.
I see. Okay.
The spontaneity of anything to me is very important, you know, as an illustrator and as a commercial artist. I think spontaneity, the first impression is a lasting impression. But when you ask somebody if you can take their picture, you know what the first thing they do is? They smile and then they sit up straight. Yeah, this guy was great. And this one won a blue ribbon at the Cornell.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's fantastic.
Show.
Fantastic. Yeah, and the colors are so vibrant, especially that blue. And with just that smooth background, you know, he really pops out. And I found that fascinating about the hands, you know, because we can really tell so much about the hands. And in this particular case, Jerry, you were saying that as soon as he knew that he was going to be photographed, that he literally placed his hands in that position.
Yeah. Oh, I had a lot of fun with this one.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely feel your sense of fun and of life, you know, as well in these portraits. Let's go ahead, Jerry, and let's look at the next one. Okay.
Oh, this lady was so sexy. Unbelievable. And she wasn't doing anything when I first met. She works at a French restaurant in Palm Beach. I can't think of the name of it right now. It's right on right off of Worth Avenue. It's got a big white awning, and she was in the service bar, and she was just standing there, and I was going to the men's room, and I said to her, "Can I take your picture?" And she looked at me really weird, and I said, "You know, I'm an artist. I love to paint bartenders." Well, when she heard that, she picked up the martini shaker and I took her picture. Unfortunately, it wasn't a real good picture, so I couldn't get the finite details. And I had to manipulate a lot of things. But I think I got the initial response. I love the colors. The colors are dark. And the marble bar does not exist. I invented that because the bar was actually just black paint, and it wasn't right for the foreground. So I had to do some research and find a marble. Well, from my stone business, I found a marble that I liked.
Now, Jerry, when you're painting, do you find that any part of the anatomy, whether it's the face, the hands, the arms, do you find any part a little bit more challenging than other parts?
It's always the eyes. Always the eyes, because the eyes, as you've heard before, are the windows to the world or the mirror to the soul. Yeah, it's always the eyes.
Mhm,
That's always the hardest part.
mhm. And I love the feel of movement. You can almost like hear the shaking and the excitement of the martini being poured in the glass. It's right there. The look on her face is epic. That's just amazing.
Yes.
Mhm. So in terms of the eyes, you find that to be a little bit more challenging than the other parts.
Well, naturally, when you think about people and you think about people that are total strangers to you, people like to hide behind, uh, or they like to not really show their feelings. So when you approach somebody and you say, "Hey, I like to do bartenders," they look at you like, "What are you nuts? You're an old man. You're bothering me." And I say, "No, really, I like to paint bartenders." And so their first response is, "This guy's weird. We better get him out of here." But when they stop and think about it, and I show them something that I've done in the past, I'll show them an old photograph. That's when they take me seriously. Um, but bartenders, because they're so out in the public, um, I'm sure they have to reserve a lot of their feelings. So that's why it's so hard to do the eyes.
Mhm, mhm. And now this one also is oil on canvas, Jerry.
Yeah, oil on canvas, and that's 24 by 30.
Mhm. And just approximately how long did this take to, from A to Z?
I would say that's about 3, 4 months. Yeah,
Mhm,
working on it. I work on a painting anywhere from 2 to 6 hours a day.
mhm, mhm,
If I'm in a bad mood, or if it's cloudy and it's rainy and there's no light, I can't paint. I can only use color when the lighting is right. But I will draw. I'll sit at the kitchen table and draw. And all my paintings, I do a lot of preliminary sketches. Like I probably did 20 sketches of just the hands on this one.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Well, that's interesting. So kind of depending on the weather conditions, that kind of is a guiding force for you in terms of what you're going to do in your studio, painting, drawing, and whatnot.
Oh yeah, because the light that's coming in through the windows affects color.
Hmm.
It affects, and you want the color to be right.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of color. I like saturated color. I'm not one of these uh, chemist painters that says you have to use these certain colors. I like to use every color.
Hmm.
And sometimes they don't go together, but I don't care. I
Hmm.
use every color that if there's 100 tubes available, I'll buy 100 tubes. Some artists, only use 5 tubes of color. I
Hmm.
use everything and then I mix it all. I never use color right out of the tube.
Hmm.
And I feel sorry for artists that do. I
Hmm.
see so many amateur artists that have great qualities and good visions, but when you take color right out of the tube and leave it on the canvas, it doesn't have any life.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. You know what I like also, Jerry, is how you kind of had this creative vision here to, add the marble there and kind of integrate the colors as, as we're talking about colors as well. And yes, I totally get that. You kind of want to get a feel for the variation of colors that you create, not just kind of like open the tube and then go ahead and start to paint. You want to, give it some life, add a little bit of this color, add a little bit of that color and kind of, give it that character.
Yeah, the marble is actually black and blue and gold and gray and white. And I tried to create perspective there with the glass so that you could see how the glass is sitting on the bar.
Mhm. Yes.
And that glass is just waiting for what Suzette is shaking up in that shaker.
Hmm. Yeah, it's lined up perfectly. You absolutely get that feeling of like what's going to happen next, and there's definitely that excitement as well. And I love this theme, exploring, the bartenders. Let's go ahead to the next one if that works for you, Jerry. Okay.
This is Havana, Cuba again.
Hmm.
I had so much fun in Havana. Um, this was, you could tell that the bartender is flirting with the lady. I had to interject different things and change things around and create some shadows. Like the front of the bar was just plain wood. So I had to go to the fabric shop and look for pleats to see what a diagonal pleat looked like. And I love the shadows in the lady's back and the expression on the two guys as they're making a drink for this lady is just it's hilarious. It tells a story. You look that the guy in the black jacket has an evil grin. So it's like he put something in her drink. So again, it's allegorical. I hope it tells a story and creates interest in order for people just not to glance at it, but look at it for its story value.
Yes.
But it's all black and white, and I mix my own blacks.
Okay.
So, yeah, so my black is actually a greenish blue.
Hmm. I'm going to stop the screen share for a second, Jerry. Wow, we've got a really good feel for your artwork. Um, I'm wondering if you could share with us a little bit about your creative process while we still have time in the interview. How do you kind of approach the canvas? You do your preliminary sketches, and as you were mentioning with the hands of the bartender and this and that. But let's go a little bit into your painting process. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, I guess first of all, it's about the image. I'm attracted to an image or an idea of an image based upon my life, based upon where I've gone, where I've been, what I'm going to do today, what I'm going to do tomorrow, what I'm thinking about. As far as are you talking about the technical aspects?
Yes.
Well, technically, um, I have a piece of glass. I don't know if you can see it here. I have a piece of glass on a little folding table where I can mix my colors. And I have a razor blade. If I don't like them, I can scrape them off. But I I do a lot of playing with colors.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, these are colors right out of the tube. I hate wasting paint. Paint is expensive, and I'm cheap. But I use the paint sticks too. And I use a lot of different brushes, a lot of different mediums. I use a terpenol. Um, Sometimes I just like to paint on paper. This is oil on watercolor paper.
It's beautiful.
And, I've seen a lot of these,
Mhm.
and I've picked up a lot of these in my life, and I've drank in a lot of these, and they're wonderful. I love scotch, but right now I'm on the wagon. Um, I use linseed oil, terpenol, and I really like walnut oil for my light colors. It was said that Leonardo invented the walnut oil, and who doesn't like Leonardo?
Mm.
So I mean, this is my tribute to Leonardo. I use the walnut oil, especially on the flesh tones, so I can build up layers. And that's what I basically do. I build up layers. Um, Sometimes I work from dark to light, and sometimes I work from light to dark.
Mhm.
Um, Initially, my painting was all done with watercolor and acrylics when I was younger, and I always worked from light to dark. Trying to cover up my pencil lines from my sketches because I sketch everything first. I will complete the painting with a total drawing, and only when I've finished drawing it all out will I start painting.
Mhm.
So there.
Yeah, that gives us some really good insight into your process. I appreciate you sharing that, and we kind of feel like we're there with you in your studio. I do have a couple of questions, Jerry. First of all, are an amazing storyteller visually. I mean, that is just like right out of the bat. So you definitely meet that intention, without a doubt. You really bring the viewer in, and you really give us that sense, as I mentioned earlier about, being in the moment and what's going on, and the character and the feel and personality of the person as well.
Personality is very important. It's all about identity as a narrative. And that's what I try to do. That's what I feel and see when I talk to somebody. You know, I you, you got to look between the layers and look at the depth of character. Um, there's several quotes that I would like to share with you that I find very inspiring. Uh, I have to read them. Um, these are actually my favorites. Um, Gustav Klimt, everybody knows who he is, right? He says, art is a line around your thoughts. I love it. It's so simplistic and it's so true. And then there's another artist here named John Lubeck. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He says, art is unquestionably one of the purest and highest elements in human happiness. It makes me very happy to do what I do. It trains the mind through the eye and the eye through the mind. As the sun colors the flowers, so does art color life. Now, I didn't make these up. These are quotes by guys who have come before me and are much smarter than I am. Al Hirschfeld, famous cartoonist and caricaturist, wrote, artists are just children who refuse to put down their crayons. Now, I love that one. And then there's another one here by Picasso. I think we've heard of him. Art washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life. That was one of his quotes. And Edward Degas said, drawing is not what one sees, but what one can make others see. And there's a few more quotes here. This is one of my favorites by St. Francis Assisi. He who works with his hands is a laborer. He who works with his hands and his head is a craftsman. He who works with his hands and his head and his heart is an artist. Love that one.
Yes.
I think that fits me. Leonardo said the artist sees what others only catch a glimpse of. And you and I spoke about that earlier. Um, Passions are not found, they are developed. That's another quote by an unknown artist. And as you'll see in my Instagram posts, uh, my favorite quote is by Albert Einstein, the famous physicist. He says, creativity is intelligence having fun. I love that one.
Yes.
So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, those are great quotes, and I love how you pull from lots of different areas. Not all are artists, but they, from different walks of life.
Well, some artists, you know, don't say anything. Some of the greatest artists in the world could never tell you how they felt or what they see. They can only do it with their hands and their paint and whatever. And then some artists, talk your ears off. Well, this is the first opportunity that I've ever had to express my art to anybody. So to me, this is part of the fun.
Mhm. Yes, yes, and it's been such a pleasure to find out about you and your art and just your whole liveliness and your openness and what inspires you and your art and the way you look at things. I do have a question, Jerry. Um, in terms of your art, do you ever create or prefer or kind of dabble in to something that's not representational? Do you ever go a little bit abstract?
Oh, yes, quite a bit. If you sit there for a moment, I'm going to go in the other room and I'm going to bring you something back. There was an exhibit at the Broward Artists Guild, which I'm a member of, and they were looking for abstract art. And abstract art is really not my thing. So I read a quote by Picasso. I can't remember what it was right offhand right now. But I did something abstract. I took my favorite colors, threw them together, and I used gesso on paper, and then I create texture with the gesso, and then I scrape it and I sand it, and I add layers of color. I'll be right back.
Okay. This is such a special treat to be with Jerry. I love looking at the pieces behind him in his studio. So you can see the one that's on the floor is one that we looked at of the Cuban, and then a continuation of his bartender paintings.
I don't know how well you can see this one,
Yes.
but this is just an experiment. And I call this, I have a name for it. I posted it on my Instagram. Um, I forgot what I call this. Oh, yes, Descending Night. This is what my mind is going through as I lay down and close my eyes.
Right. Yes, I get that.
So you ask about abstract. I think that's about as abstract as you can get.
Yes, yes. And I like how you broke it, into a triptych as well.
Yes, I love triptychs.
It's beautiful.
I've done several.
Yes.
And this is just watercolor paper mounted on some foam board.
Right. Right. Very nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, Before we wrap everything up, Jerry, I just have a few questions for you, please. So your preference is, to work in this, like kind of allegorical, as you said, representational way, and you have these themes of portraits that you like from different places that you've traveled, and of course the super fun, bartender theme. Now, what keeps it fresh for you? Like, for example, you do portrait and then you do another portrait. Once you've done like a large body of portraits that you have, and other than the fact that it's now a new person, in a new situation, a new environment, even if it's a continuation of a theme, what keeps it like fresh for you, to
The
keep that?
personality and the character in the expression. It keeps, I love people. I think people are the most interesting things. You know, I've puttered around in boats and I've raced cars and I've traveled all over, and it's all about the people. You know, you can look at somebody and you can see if they're happy or sad. Um, you say to somebody, "How you doing?" And either they'll complain to you, or they'll give you a smile and they say that they're fine. But to me, it's all about the interaction with people. I grew up in the restaurant business. Um, when I was a little kid, I would work behind the bar. I learned how to count by making change. My grandfather used to pay me a penny a glass to wash the glasses behind the bar. So he taught me how to count. and always around a lot of people. Love people. Unfortunately, the pandemic has put the kibosh on all that. But as soon as things clear up, I've got both my shots ready. So I'm out there. I'm ready to socialize.
Mhm. And you're really bringing this full circle because in the beginning of the interview, Jerry, you were saying that your art, really stems from your childhood. That's kind of like your foundation, kind of like separate from, all the training and schooling and experiences, that you had. But it really stemmed from all these experiences from childhood that, in a sense, you're kind of reliving. And I have another question.
Life is a circle.
Yes.
Life is a circle. And when you get older, you can relate more to your childhood.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm also wondering about with the portraits, is there anything else that we haven't touched upon before we wrap things up? Because that's, kind of primarily what we looked at. We looked at, the beautiful glass of Scotch and the abstract, but, it seems like you really kind of resonate with the portraiture. Anything that you'd like to mention that we didn't quite touch upon?
Yes. If there's anybody out there that would like a portrait, I would be glad to do it. And no charge. I'll even give them a copy. I miss working from life. And I can't wait to get back to that. I went out to a restaurant the other night, and there was a wonderful back bar with beautiful bottles, all backlit and everything. And the two ladies that were working behind the bar were just strutting their stuff. I mean, they were wearing these push-up things. What do you call them? With your
Corset?
laces. Pardon me?
The corset?
Yeah, they were wearing that.
Mhm.
And they had all the eye makeup on and the hair was coiffed perfectly, but they were wearing masks. And so was everybody else. And I wanted to take a picture of them so bad. And I asked her if she would take off her mask. And she started to take off her mask so I could take a picture of her. And then she put it back on real quick and she says, "Oh, I didn't put makeup on today." So she was not going to take off the mask because she probably wasn't wearing lipstick, or maybe she just put makeup on around the mask. I don't know. But that's what I mean.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a good story.
But I'm going to go back to that lady. She works at New York Prime here in downtown Boca, and she's would be perfect for another bartender painting.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and the lighting in there was great too. Great lighting.
Hmm. I
And it's
love.
nice we have these phones now with these cameras, so everything can be spontaneous.
Mhm.
I used to walk around with a big camera all the time.
I love your sense of adventure and your spontaneity and your love of life. I mean, it's such a joy, and we can feel your joy, through your elaboration and of course through your artwork. Before we wrap things up, I do want to ask you one other question.
You
Um,
keep saying that. One other
I
question.
know, I know. I'm just so enjoying this conversation. But when you complete a portrait, like let's just use some that we've looked at. Let's go with the bartender series, and so you've taken the photograph, and you've been working on this painting, done all the sketches and whatnot. Do you feel anything different in terms of a connection between you and that person as you've been like examining their face, their hands, their arms, I mean their environment? I mean, you've really been going deep into their physical form and of course the
Oh,
environment.
yes, you're absolutely right. I feel a definite connection in creating their identity as I see it. Um, the initial response in taking the picture is what I really am attracted to and helps with my motivation. But as far as finishing something, it's never finished. Even though it's finished, it's never finished. It can't be finished because life goes on. This is just a moment in time.
Jerry, we do need to wrap up the show. This has been such a great joy to connect with you and to find out about your art. As we wrap things up now, we always like to offer our guests the opportunity to share some closing comments, whatever you would like to close out the show. And then please let us know how we can stay connected with you.
My closing comment to you and anybody else that's watching this is be nice and show respect for everybody. I was a troop leader with the Boy Scouts. I have 2 boys. That brought me great joy. And during that time, I didn't paint or draw at all because, I had that going on. But now that I don't have that anymore, this is my joy. I love camping with the Boy Scouts. I'm a 75-year-old Boy Scout.
I love how you retained your childhood innocence and that whole energy of childhood. And that of course relates to one of the
My father was great. My father and I were the best of friends. There's not a day my personality is from him. All the jokes and things that I like to say, you know, they're all from my dad. My dad was a lover of life, and I got that from him.
Tell us, Jerry, how can we stay connected with you?
I have an Instagram thing. You can always see me on Instagram. It's Sailor Jerry Art. I live in Boca. You can see my art at the Broward Artists Guild and anywhere else that they allow me to exhibit, or they let me in or they deem me worthy. You'll find me there. Or you can call me. You can call me. You can visit my studio, which is also my gallery. And I don't know if you want me to put my phone number out there, but maybe I shouldn't do that.
Right. We'll provide some links in the video description of everything that you'd like to include, like your Instagram and whatnot. Jerry, this has been amazing to connect with you. Thank you so much for being.
Well, it's very easy to talk to you.
Thank you.
And I would love to do a portrait of you.
Oh my goodness.
With a different background.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take you up on that, Jerry.
Send me one of your favorite pictures of yourself.
Okay.
And I'll send you my rendition.
That sounds awesome, Jerry. Thank you so much. And continued success with all of your art. Stay connected with us. I can't wait to see what else you're going to come up with, and your whole creative energy and creative vibe is just so inspiring. Thank you so much.
And thank you. I had a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good. Wonderful. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching Art and Talk today and staying connected with us. And again, stay connected with us for the next couple of days throughout next week as we continue to bring you more artists from the Biennial exhibit at the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. And again, that's running until April 28th. And so do come on out and check out this amazing exhibit with these great group of really fascinating artists. And again, just want to mention, jump on our Facebook page. If you're not local, you want to find out a little bit more about the Biennial exhibit and the artists that are there. You can check that out. And thank you again, Jerry, for being our guest artist. Thank you again, everybody, for watching. And we'll talk soon on the next Art and Talk. Until then, be well and be blessed.